Are you ready? Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for braving the cold and being out here. It's going to get even colder on Saturday, so get ready for that. So let's call to order the Oakland Town Commission meeting for January 27th. Everybody could please stand for the pledge, remain standing. All right. All right. Good evening, Kathy.
Good evening. Commissioner Keller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Satterfield, Mayor Taylor, Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner McMullen.
Okay, got a couple of proclamations this morning, so this evening. We'll start out with the first proclamation, Celebrate Literacy Week. Whereas the week of January 26th through January 30th, 2026 is designated by the Florida Department of Education as Celebrate Literacy Week in the state of Florida. And to celebrate Literacy Week, Florida 2026 theme is Read White and Blue, celebrating 250 chapters of America, honoring the nation's rich literary and historical heritage as we mark 250 years of American stories and voices. And the mission of the public schools is to prepare all students for the 21st century by becoming literate thinkers, writers, and readers in all facets of life. And the Oakland Avenue Charter School has an intense focus on student achievement, and literacy prepares students to become independent readers and thinkers who can construct and apply knowledge. And literacy enables students to become productive adults who can compete globally and contribute positively to society. Now, therefore, I, Shane Taylor, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Oakland, and on behalf of the entire town commission, do hereby proclaim the week of January 26th through January 30th, 2026 in the town of Oakland as Celebrate Literacy Week. Okay, moving on to next proclamation, Black History Month. Whereas Black History Month recognizes the significant contributions African Americans have made to the United States, and Black History Month celebrates the histories, cultures, and achievements of African American citizens. And established by American historian Carter G. Woodson in 1926 as Black History Week, it was expanded to a month in 1976 during the nation's bicentennial. And whereas in the town of Oakland, African Americans have long been leaders and business owners enriching the community's history. And February serves to honor the vital role of African Americans in the United States and encourages the study of Black history year-round. Now, therefore, I, Shane Taylor, on behalf of the Town of Oakland Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month and urge all citizens to observe this occasion. Right. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have two items on here tonight. Item A is approval of the January 13th, 2026 Town Commission regular meeting minutes, and B, approval to serve wine at the Black History Tribute Artist Reception at the Healthy West Orange Arts and Heritage Building. Any comments or questions? I guess present. Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, easy. Moving on to other policy matters and Mike Parker. Good evening, Mike.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So since this will be my last commission meeting as your Public Works Director, I think this would be the perfect opportunity for me to do a filibuster. What do you think? No. Mike Parker, Public Works Director for the town. For the sake of our audience, it's brave in the cold tonight. I do have a kind of a synopsis of the commission agenda report that was out. So BMAP is an acronym for Basin Management Action Plan. A BMAP is a water quality restoration plan designed to reduce pollutant loading in the natural environment. The town of Oakland is located in 3 separate BMAPs. The Upper Ocklawaha, the Wekiva River are surface water BMAPs, and the Wekiva and Rock Springs is collectively a spring BMAP. These broad-based plans are developed with local stakeholders and are reliant on local commitment. These plans are also enforceable by statute. The town has several specific goals to meet, which are set by the state. So for a number of years, town staff have worked diligently toward meeting these goals through many different best management practices, or BMPs. The creation of a centralized sanitary sewer system, which will eliminate septic systems, was a huge step forward in reducing nutrient levels within these 3 distinct BMAPs. Also, the Phase 2 MS4 permit activities the town has been implementing for more than 10 years have been a great assistance in meeting our requirements. So both of these initiatives are minimizing nutrients and contaminants from entering the BMAPs. With that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Ken Weaver, Deputy Director of FDEP's Division of Environmental Assessment and Restoration, for a brief presentation, after which I'll bring back the recommendation. Ken?
Thank you, Mike. Did half my presentation. So as Mike said, I'm Ken Weaver. I'm one of the deputy directors within the Division of Environmental Assessment and Restoration within DEP, and one of my programs is the BMAP program, also TMDLs, which I'll mention briefly because the BMAPs implement TMDLs. But I really want to thank you, the commissioners, the mayor, the town staff, for inviting us. I think it's really critical to BMAP success, to engage the stakeholders, engage municipalities. So thank you. We really like folks engaging in our restoration efforts. It's a team effort. So next slide, please. So as Mike said, the Basin Management Action Plan is sort of, we call it a framework for restoration. And it's one of the tools, methods that DEP, the state, uses to restore water bodies that are impaired, not meeting our water quality standards. They are developed cooperatively. DEP kind of takes the lead, coordinates this, but it's very important to get the stakeholder input from various entities as we implement this. As Mike said, these are adopted ultimately by secretarial order, each of the BMAPs. So there's 28 nutrient BMAPs. There's 3 that are affecting the town of Oakland. And as secretarial orders, there are elements of these BMAPs that are enforceable through law, through regulation. But we kind of do it through a more cooperative approach, and they are implemented through a phased approach. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, as well as our annual reporting and regular updates. Next slide, please. Yes. So kind of talk about what's in the BMAPs and get a better idea of what this BMAP is, these Basin Management Action Plans. And I mentioned TMDLs, which is one of my programs, Total Maximum Daily Load. The state sets water quality standards like other states. Phosphorus and nitrogen are some of these standards. The nutrients, excess nutrients can cause excess plant growth, excess algal growth, periphyte mats in our springs that people recreating in don't want to, and cause ecological changes. So we set these standards, and a TMDL can kind of be thought of as a diet for the water body. We figure out the load, the pounds of nitrogen or phosphorus. So let's say we figure out a lake can take 1,000 pounds of nitrogen a year. If that gets up to 1,500 pounds, then we do a TMDL, we say, hey, we've got to reduce this by 500 pounds to get it back to the 1,000 pounds. So the TMDL kind of identifies what is needed to reduce that nitrogen or phosphorus to get it back to meeting the standards so that we've got a nice water body that people want to recreate. It's supporting aquatic life, fish and wildlife. The BMAPs take that TMDL in many cases, especially for larger water bodies that cross multiple jurisdictions, and come up with a plan. They lay out the area addressed by for the restoration, the area covered. Sometimes that's just one TMDL. Other times we combine multiple TMDLs. Ocklawaha combined multiple TMDLs. I'm going to show a map in a subsequent slide. The BMAPs also identify the sources. Is it OSTDS septic tanks, stormwater, farm fertilizer? What's contributing to that nitrogen and phosphorus? They then take it in a phased implementation approach, trying to get back to meeting that TMDL within about 20-year timeframes with milestones, typically now 5-year steps, and with projects and other management strategies like septic to sewer upgrades, stormwater retrofits, that type of thing. They're going to actually get back to meeting the water quality standards. And then one of the more recent things that we implemented in the latest BMAPs are future growth estimates. And these aren't really enforceable. It's more information to municipalities such as the town of Oakland. Okay, if you continue growing as we expect, what would it look like? What would your loading look like in 5-10 years? And it's kind of to help you with your planning moving forward. Also really critical to the BMAP are the projects. We talk a lot about septic sewer, that type of thing. And entities enter their projects into our portal every year and kind of give us a timeline, estimates of how much each of those projects are going to reduce nutrients. We report on that. And then the other part of it is just the important annual monitoring of our water bodies. We send people out in the field to collect water quality samples to see how well the water body is doing. We report on that on an annual basis and then do periodic meetings. My staff goes around the state every year and has at least one meeting on each BMAP. So they'll be back again this year. And then we also report on water quality analyses. Next slide, please. I think we've mentioned stakeholders. This is important. So there's various types of stakeholders, and really where the town of Oakland sits is you are identified as a responsible entity. Responsible entities are organizations, typically governmental, municipalities that have signed load reduction. So you actually have some responsibilities on the BMAP to implement. Why we're talking about projects later on is because you do, and you're typically identified as a lead entity for your area. Again, these are enforceable. There's also responsible agencies, things like FDOT, FDEX, water management districts, that if they own land, they may have load reductions of their own they have to implement, but they also kind of in a supportive role. Water management districts do a lot of the monitoring for us, maybe provide some additional regulatory oversight or do some additional research to help us refine our science and our BMAPs. And then finally, interested stakeholders are typically the environmental organizations or citizens that come to the meetings and are very interested in the process, provide us input and feedback and improve the process. But they are part of the process too. And then the overall arching, just all stakeholders. Next slide, please. So as Mike mentioned, there are 3 BMAPs that cover the city of Oakland. And I really look at on my slide, the image start out on the right shows the town of Oakland, where you have three BMAPs. You've got the upper Ocklawaha that covers, as Mike said, a lot of surface water. It's primarily for phosphorus. We've got multiple TMDL, so multiple targets for different lakes. I'll talk about really for you, the focus is on Lake Apopka, because that's the closest water body. And then you've got the Wekiva River, that's a surface water that deals with phosphorus and nitrogen. And then the Kewah Springs groundwater BMAP that deals with nitrogen, primarily nitrate is our pollutant of concern. And so those are the 3 BMAPs that cover this area. One of the things I wish I'd asked my staff to do is put what we call the priority focus area on this map for the Wekiva Springs. So springs have a priority focus area. That is the area we're most concerned about. That's where any water that goes on the land surface quickly infiltrates and can get in the groundwater and then affect the springs. you are not in what we call the priority focus area, the PFA. The PFA for Wekiwa is sort of on the eastern side of Lake Apopka, outside of the city of Oakland, and that's going to be important when I talk about some of the OSDAS requirements. Next, talk a little about each of these BMAPs. Ocklawaha it was first adopted in 2007 with, again, the updates 2014, 2019, and then our latest update in 2025, where we did 25 nutrient BMAPs all at once. For you, Oakland, since you're located within the Lake Apopka watershed, the nutrient reduction for all of the lake is 108,258 pounds per year. So that's the total reduction. The good news is, as I was looking at the documents, we're 98% of the way there. So only 2% more for Apopka. So really close. Next slide, please. Wekiva and Wekiwa BMAPs were first adopted in 2015. And at the time, they were combined into one BMAP. But as we mentioned, Wekiwa, the Wekiva is for surface water, Wekiwa is for groundwater. So we separated those in 2018 and then kind of focused in Wekiwa on reductions in the spring shed area, which includes the city of Oakland. This BMAP, so this is where it gets a little confusing. The 2018 BMAP for Wekiwa is currently in effect, and it does not have what we call entity-specific allocations, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We did update both BMAPs in 2025. Wekiwa and Rock Springs, unfortunately, are now subject to litigation from outside entities. They're taking us to court. This spring, we're going to have to go to the Division of Administrative Appeals and defend that, and we'll see where that goes. So this 2025 BMAP is not currently in effect for Wekiwa. The 2018 BMAP is in effect, but we can still kind of talk about what's required between the two. For Wekiva River, it says no entity-specific allocations. It's basically entity-specific allocations are sort of your piece of the pie. Your specific entity has to reduce. So remember I talked about 108,000 pounds for Apopka. That's for the whole lake. It doesn't have entity specific. You'd want something that says our piece of the pie is maybe 10%. And that's what ultimately the entity allocations mean. For Wekiva, DEP is working with our consultant to redo some of the modeling, the statistical modeling we do to show how nutrients move through the system for all of the St. John's system. Wekiva is part of the St. John's. That modeling is going to take a couple of years. So we expect an update to the Wekiva River BMAP in I'll say 4 to 5 years. And at that time, we'll adopt the entity allocations. So that one's in effect, but there's changes. Next slide, please. So kind of talking a little bit about milestones and reductions and getting a little more specific. So consistent with statutes, entities such as city or town of Oakland need to provide the department with a list of projects or strategies, approaches to meet the milestones in the BMAPs. And those get reported to us through the portal. We have a portal that just closed 2 weeks ago where entities enter, they say, we're going to do a septic to sewer upgrade or something like that. And this is how much it's going to cost, or we think this is how much it's going to cost. This is the load reductions we expect to get from that. And that gets entered in the portal. And then we, DEP, look at, okay, how are you tracking toward these milestones? The table on this shows the sort of the milestones for each of the 3 BMAPs. First, Upper Ocklawaha was last adoption was 2025, but because we're so close, there's a 100% milestone in 2030. So in just under 5 years, we expect to be there. For the Wekiwa Springs, this is a good example. We're still looking at the 2018 BMAP, but what we're saying is, based on the milestones, we're asking folks to get to 30% of the required reduction by 2028, 80% by 2033, and then 100% by 2038. The 5-year steps. And this is legislatively required. And the legislature has said, responsible entities need to come in and provide the department with their plans to meet these milestones. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this would have been made more sense in another order now I think about it. But the Wekiwa Springs, this is the total load allocation for Wekiwa Springs. And this is how much is nitrogen is coming in from the land surface, from the groundwater, and getting into the spring ultimately. And what it says is that total, there's about 1.2 million pounds of nitrogen coming into the Wekiwa Springs on an annual basis. 52%, the biggest piece of that pie, is from OSTDS septic tanks. And this is the whole spring shed, not just Oakland. The next biggest is what we call UTF, that's urban turf fertilizer. So fertilizer you put on your lawns or parks and things like that, followed by wastewater treatment facilities, 11%. But the biggest pieces are the septic tanks in this basin. STF is sports turf fertilizer. So fertilizer put on soccer fields, baseball fields, that type of thing. We separate out golf because that has its own procedures, it has its own BMPs and BMP manuals for golf courses. So overall, Wekiwa is at 1.2 million pounds of nitrogen per year. Next slide. Thinking about that and the fact that 52% of that load is from OSTDS. There was a requirement in statute, section 373-807, that said in BMAPs where OSTDS is more than 20% of the total load, then DEP and the responsible entities need to put together OSTDS remediation plans. Basically, how are you going to address your load from OSTDS and what's your plan? And I understand we're going to talk about that next, so that's great. There was also the requirement in statute, and this is kind of where I want you to remember about PFA, is that there is a prohibition against the installation of new conventional OSTS. So conventional OSTS are old style septic tanks that have a minimal amount of nitrogen reduction. There's the prohibition is twofold. There's prohibition against installing new conventional septic tanks on lots less than 1 acre or less if central sewer is available. If not, then they have to install what we call an enhanced nutrient reducing system, an ENR. Then that's a system that achieves at least 65% nitrogen reduction in the tank. And there's additional reduction that may occur in the drain field. What?
Would that be like the hoot system, the aerated hoot system?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the systems. Yeah, I wasn't quite as familiar with that, but yes. So that is in place. That's statutory. That applies across all 3 BMAPs. In fact, all of our BMAPs. The 2018 and 2025 BMAPs had this added provision. This is where the PFA comes in, that said existing OSTDS systems, if they had to be replaced, repaired, or modified, then they had to go either connect to central sewer or install one of these ENRs, enhanced nutrient reduction systems. That is not your concern, because you're not within the PFA. So that provision doesn't apply within your jurisdiction. It's still, as we'll see, OSTDS is where you probably need to address, but you don't have to worry about the existing systems. Next slide, please. Just kind of builds on this and just repeats what the last slide said. It said that in the 2025 BMAP documents, if you're looking for the OSTDS kind of policies and remediation policy that DEP set, and as we kind of took and synthesized everyone's submitted plans, that's an Appendix B, if you're looking for that. Next slide. So kind of looking at what we need for Wekiwa. This is based on the 2018 BMAP. And it says that what we found is to meet that TMDL, to get the spring back to meeting its standards, we need to reduce nitrogen, we being not just Oakland, everyone, by 290,423 pounds per year. And the goal is to meet that by 2038. What, 12 years from now? And then there's 30%, there's a 30% goal after 5 years, another 50%, so 80% in 10 years, and then 100% in 15 years to get to that goal. Next slide. What you want to focus on, and this is from the 2025 BMAP, and I want to caution that this is not currently in effect, but I do think it's helpful for you to know because it tells you what your piece of the pie is of that 290,000 pounds. What this says is as we look at how the nitrogen comes across the landscape and across all stakeholders and municipalities within the basin for Oakland, by 2038, we're looking for 8,158 pound reduction. Most of that, as this table showing, is from OSTDS 6,618, and the rest is, we think you could address it through educational programs or other policies to deal with urban turf grass. Although you can certainly get there, you could get the full 8,000 by just addressing OSTDS. So there is some flexibility here. We're not saying you have to address this. We're just saying we in order to get there, we need the 8,158 pounds. And so far, based on what you all have submitted in previous years, about 100, my staff estimate about 160 pounds, which is mostly from education and outreach type programs, which are permissible. I checked with Mike before I came and verified with my staff. In just a few weeks ago, Town of Oakland did enter about 21 projects. My staff are going through it, making sure and reviewing it, making sure they all qualify for credits and see where they fall out. And we'll have some more information, how far along you are meeting these in a few weeks after the staff have looked at that. And that will be reported in what we call the statewide annual report of the STAR report. Next slide. I think that's. There we go. Can you click one more? I don't know if I hit this. Yes. So I wanted to share this. I had it as a hidden slide. We know the septic sewer upgrades are really expensive, and I'm sure you're all engaged on this, but I really want folks to know that the department does offer grant assistance, and we get a lot of funds from the legislature, the Division of Water Resource Assistance. My folks call it the Division of Giving Away Money, but they've got a variety of grants. Given where you are, the Springs grants for eligible projects to address Springs issues, as well as water quality improvement grants that deal with septic to sewer. So these are the good options. If you haven't already submitted those pages give you links to where there's a portal. You can upload your information, and all it's not my division, my staff and myself kind of get involved with reviewing projects and kind of giving feedback back to the other divisions saying, yeah, this is a great project. We really need it for BMAP implementation. So it's my way of saying we support you and we support a good grant application if that's what you need. As we know, these are expensive projects. With that, you can go back to the previous slide just so I can throw my. Yeah. So that is the end of my presentation. I think, yes, that's got my contact information as well as the coordinator for these BMAPs, Beth Robertson. Who's worked quite a bit with Mike. So, but thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stay for the next presentation, and I can answer questions at that time too.
Sure, thanks. Any questions real quick? No? Okay, I'm sorry, Sal, you got something?
I'll just wait. Presentation.
Just a couple of things you'd said in the presentation. You mentioned penalties for the town. Is there penalties if you don't hit those milestones that you laid out?
In theory, yes, because they are enforceable. We have not, and honestly, seeing how you're working, I don't see that. The agency has not taken enforcement action yet. We are talking about how we might, but these are for more recalcitrant players. There are folks that are far behind what you're doing, so I don't expect it. I really doubt there would be penalties, but there could be.
Right. You mentioned Lake Apopka. You didn't mention Johns Lake. Is Johns Lake included in all this? Being Johns Lake's on the south side of us. I mean, you think about.
I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it is.
Because your map is kind of encompassing some of Johns Lake. And I'm guessing all this water flow is running south to north.
Yes.
So all the contaminants that you're talking about is running in that direction. Funding was another thing. It sounds like you want to hit these milestones. A small town like ours, funding is going to be the big driver on hitting any of that milestone. And, you know, what we think is on the horizon, it's not going to be done just by the, it will not be done by the town.
Well, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
That's why the state has all that funding. My own, I live within about 5 miles from McCullough Springs, and I've got to upgrade my septic tank.
Yeah, and that's the problem. If there's no funds if
Yeah.
if funds are unavailable and you can't do it and the state doesn't have the funds to do it, I mean, kind of a mute type subject, right?
And, you know, and I think what you kind of hit as is the milestone, you know, and I probably should have, we are not going to, I have not heard any indication that if folks don't hit those milestones, really we're looking for demonstrated progress toward those milestones and, you know, where the agency might take some enforcement action. And I really have to put the emphasis on might is if we're seeing folks that aren't submitting projects, aren't, you know,
Yeah.
really participating. You're participating.
Yeah, and I think our public works department has done a great job in participating and you know, the grants that we've gotten and converting the sewer, septic to sewer. There's a long way to go. I mean, your number on here is crazy.
Yes.
There's a lot of septic tanks. and
Absolutely.
That's just how it is. So
Yeah, I was looking at that, the 921
Yeah.
septic to
you got a
sewer
12-year period. to
connections.
do
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and Mayor Taylor hit exactly on what I was going to say. My first thought was funding too, because again, we are a very small town. We obviously have, you know, plans in place for septic to sewer, and with some of our new development, we're getting more sewer lines run through town. So, yeah, I mean, if we get points for definitely heading in the right direction, I think that's good for us. But again, I have the same concerns that Mayor Taylor has, that 921 is a lot. And so the funding page was really good for me to see. And then, you know, my other thing too was, you know, Lake Apopka, you said, you know, is 98% there, which is good. And the other thing is that obviously Lake Apopka, you know, getting to its goal, which fortunately it sounds like it's pretty close to getting there, is dependent upon a lot of entities around the lake, not just our town. So, you know, I'm guessing that's all taken into that factor of how you come up with that number of the 921 septic to sewer changes.
Yes, it does. Yes.
And that is something that we're pushing the legislator to allocate some funds for more septic to sewer type initiatives. And that's one thing that I tell them when I meet with them is you want to stop the nitrogen hitting this Lake Apopka that you spent millions and millions of dollars to clean up. Help us out, and then
Right.
we can stop the source from what's going into that lake. You know, so yeah.
And then
And
lastly,
You
Mike,
can come with us to Tallahassee if you like.
You probably have more weight than I do, but yes, I heard you were coming to Tallahassee. It's good. Yes.
Mike, you can nod or come up, whatever. I'm assuming you're aware of these funding opportunities and we've pursued them, or we will pursue them.
Yes, we've already taken advantage of the 319H, which is kind of a federal money. We've already taken advantage of that twice in the past. We've got the current, I think we've got 3.5 million just in the last 6 months through different grant applications.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
I've got one other question. Shane had brought up Johns Lake, which is right on the other side of us right here that feeds directly into Lake Apopka. If we're so concerned with Lake Apopka, why wouldn't Johns Lake be in it with that direct contact through the Motomasset Canal that really flows heavy? How do we fight that if we're not going to be looking at lakes like that and ones that connect and they flow?
And when I said Johns Lake, I don't believe, and I have to go back and look at the TMDL and B maps. I don't think we have a specific allocation for that, but you're right, because it's in there. And as we look at the loads, even though that might not have its own allocation, might have specific pounds per year, you're right. We should be looking at projects in or around Johns Lake because they do end up in Apopka. So you're absolutely right. Whether it's included in the B map directly or not, that's a good place to look, because you do look in the watershed. You're right.
Yeah. Right. And looking at your maps that you have here, I mean, Johns Lake falls in all three. The upper, the Wekiva and Wekiwa. So it's right there. But Makes sense. I mean, if it's running, everything's running north,
Right.
that's where it is. And there is a lot of development that's happening around Johns Lake. So, yeah. Anybody else? Great. Thank you. Oh, do we want to take a question or we want to wait? Yeah. You got to come up, Lou. Sorry. Name and address.
Gonna make you work for it, Louis. You gotta walk up, man.
Hey, Louis Smith, 316 North Tubb Street, Oakland, Florida, 34760, proud resident of Oakland. There was a prototypical cleansing system on the north end of Lake Apopka years ago, about 1,000 foot long, and they were pumping water through that system to cleanse nitrogen and phosphorus. My question to you is, do you know anything about that system and what happened to the results?
I can answer that. I do not know anything about that, so I can't answer the second question.
Okay, it was real.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what did they find in that? Was that system successful? I mean, probably not if nobody's knowing about it, but if it was successful, put in a 20,000 foot one and that'll help clean up the lake.
Yeah.
So, but it's real. They put it
I
in.
do remember that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Val.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you.
support. Thank you.
Okay, so you all are educated on that now. So the recommendation is staff is recommending that the Oakland Town Commission recognize the importance of the Basin Management Action Plan by consensus and continue to support staff in working to implement BMPs that will continue to help us meet our statutory requirements.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Do we, if it consensus, do we need a motion or?
Consent? I think we all consent, right? Go forth, Mike.
Okay,
You're good.
thanks.
Thanks.
But just, can you give us a list of all those acronyms? Because there was a lot of letters in there. You know?
All right. Okay, so we'll close that out and we'll move on. Mike, I'm sure you're doing the on-site sewage treatment and disposal system. Mike tonight.
So again, this is statutory. Florida statutes specify that local governments within a basin management action plan, which now you know we are, must develop an on-site sewage treatment and disposal system, or OSTDS, and I'll be using that acronym in this. Just I'm trying to save all the words that I can because I'm getting old. I need to save them. Yeah, remediation plan containing certain information. So although finalization of our remediation plan has taken a bit longer than required by statute, staff has worked diligently in developing a plan based on existing OSTDS information that was publicly available in 2023. And basically, it's based on 8 specific criteria. Those being, number 1, a comprehensive inventory of existing OSTDS, that's the 930 some that you just mentioned, an estimate of future growth within, the estimation of future growth in new OSTDS over the next 20 years. So how many new ones do we plan on having? None, if we can afford it. Number 3 is we needed to provide an inventory of OSTDS that are expected to be eliminated over the next 20 years. Just today, I sat down and went through all of the commercial properties that we have eliminated the septic systems on those since I think 2018. If anybody would like to hazard a guess, how many commercial properties have came off of septic and went on to sewer? I'll save you the trouble. It's 19. We have 19 different septic systems that have been removed. So that adds up, and quite a few residential as well. We needed to provide an identification of planning, design, and construction of new or extended sewer lines and replacement of OSTDS by connecting to central sewer. We've had the septic to sewer project over here on West Hull a few years ago that eliminated almost 50. We've had a couple of other smaller ones. We just didn't call them true septic to sewer. We needed to provide the estimated costs associated with these projects. We needed to provide an estimation of the number of OSTDS that'll require upgrading to enhance nutrient reducing systems once the system needs replacing. Now, listening to Ken, doesn't sound like that's going to be a big number, at least right now. Number 7 is we needed to provide an estimation of costs associated with the aforementioned upgrades. Our plan has that. And last, any other cost-effective and financially feasible projects necessary to achieve the nutrient load reductions set forth in the BMAP. So in brief, development of a plan is required. And yes, meeting the criteria set forth will be expensive. The good news here is that for the past decade, Oakland has been compelling developers to construct central sewer systems to accommodate new growth. You might recall the Briley Farms Phase 1A, they were approved on septic. They are now going on central sewer. I mean, it's just the way to go. And we have been diligent in extending those lines to enable septic to sewer conversion. So what that means is we're piggybacking, if you will, on the developer's expense to create new septic to sewer connections. So anyway, with that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Tucker Hunter and Ms. Brenna Riley of Kimley Horn for a brief presentation, after which I'll bring back the recommendation.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Tucker Hunter, and this is Brenna Riley. We're with Kimley Horn. We worked closely with Mike Parker on this on-site sewage treatment disposal systems remediation plan, and we'd like to present the findings to you. I know some of the numbers you may see in this report are a little different than what Ken just shared. Ken did a lot of the dirty work of explaining what BMAPs are, so thank you, Ken. We really appreciate that. If you go to the next slide. So the background, we just heard this from Ken a little bit ago, but I'm going to reiterate it a little bit. The FDEP in 2024 required the town of Oakland and all other municipalities to submit a OSTDS remediation plan, which we currently have. That's dated in November 2025. As you heard, that the town is located within 3 BMAPs. The Wekiva Springs, Upper Ocklawaha, and Wekiva River. One thing I wanted to touch on is part of the FDEP requirement for the OSTDS was there was also a wastewater treatment plan associated with it. However, as you know, City of Claremont and City of Winter Garden accepts your wastewater flow, so that was not required for the town. And then as we talked about a little bit ago, the town is required to reduce the total nitrogen and phosphorus amounts by 30% by 2028. That's in order to maintain compliance with the BMAP requirements. So the purpose of this report was develop an inventory of the OSTDSs within the town limits to be eliminated or enhanced within the town. You can go to the next slide. So what we did was we took the parcels that were located within the town, and that inventory was based off the Department of Health in 2023. And we came up with 905 parcels that were identified as having permitted on-site sewage disposal systems. So however, based on that inventory, we'll go over the map here in a minute, but 6 of those parcels were actually converted from septic to central sewer recently. The most recent one being we had the Oakland Charter School and Public Safety Facility that we worked with Mike Parker on back in 2023. And then you also have Oakland Park, Oakland Nature Preserve, and then the Grove, which is actually 2 parcels. So those were the 6 that we eliminated right off the bat. And as you heard from Mike a little bit ago, there's actually additional 19 septic systems that were eliminated. That was not in the report, as that was just reported to us. You can go to the next slide. So here's the map. So if you look at the green parcels, those are all of the parcels that have septic systems located within them. And then if you look at the ones that are outlined in red, those were the parcels that I was identifying as the 6 parcels that are actually already on Central Sewer. Go to the next slide.
Red is sewer and green is septic.
Sorry, can you go back one?
Red sewer, green septic?
Correct.
That's correct.
The top green, I guess, would it be updated, right? Top, right corner, Oakland Park would all of them.
It's Central Sewer. That's correct. Yes, sir. And then same thing with the charter school, the Grove, the new development coming in, the public safety. And then you also have the Oakland Nature Preserve. Those were all the parcels that are Central Sewer now. You can go to the next slide. So when we were doing this study, we were looking at different areas to identify projects within the town. We identified 8 areas. And we divided the town. We'll show you on the next slide, if you don't mind going to that, and then we'll come back. So what we did was we basically parceled out the town. We looked at what your existing lift stations are. That way we could try to capitalize on where you already have lift stations. And then also if there's any developments that we're putting in Central Sewer. So as you can see here, the number one priority that we found with just being with Lake Apopka was, and also with you having Briley Farms coming in, as Mike alluded to, we labeled that as the number one priority. And then John's Landing was the number 2 priority. However, John's Landing was the number 1 priority based off of the nutrient loading requirements. If you could go back one slide. So I know the big number here that you'll see. So eliminating these septic tanks, we estimated that the cost would be about $55.5 million. That does not include the connection to, or the impact fee that would be paid to the city of Claremont. But that would also reduce, we estimated 10,150 pounds. Brenna, if you could talk to that a little bit. I know that there was an update.
Yes, so the amount of pounds reduced is just the conservative amount of eliminating all of the identified septic tanks that we showed on the previous map, just to show the full amount that could be reduced with the septic to sewer conversion. And with that, the number will change slightly on the amount that is eliminated due to updated calculation methods from the Department of Environmental Protection, just so that way they have more up-to-date numbers as well.
So what does that equate per resident? So if you base it off the 899 parcels that we referred to earlier, it's about $62,000 per lot. And then there's also the OSCDS enhancement projects. That is all 899 lots as well. So we estimated that about $18,000 per OSCDS enhancement. So that comes up to the $16.2 million. The way that we came up with the project prioritization, as I said earlier, was the cost per pound of nitrogen removal, and then also the proximity to Lake Apopka, and trying to utilize the Briley Farms connection for a recent development that was done. Next slide. We just described this here a little bit ago. So what does this all mean? So we got into our recommendations. If you go to the next slide. So our recommendation is continue your ongoing program of converting your septic systems. Mike has done a great job with trying to prioritize these areas, and Janelle, I'm sure, will be taking the reins here soon. But looking at these projects, trying to work with developers, and then also making sure that we have future connections. So making sure that your gravity sewer system is deep enough in order to make your connections. So that's one thing that you always want to look at. If we can utilize whatever's going in, if we can plan it for the future, which that happened on Hull Avenue and is also happening right now with Briley Farms. The other thing is, while that number was big, $55.5 million, if you break up the larger projects into about $4 million or 60 connections is what we're estimating, then you can start looking into more of those funding and trying to take smaller bites out of the apple, so to speak. And then one I'm sure that everybody's going to see here is the OSCDS enhancements. They seem more cost effective. However, it will be more of a burden to your citizens, as they will have to pay for that themselves, and there's not a whole lot of funding available. However, when it comes to septic systems and getting them to septic to sewer conversions. There's a lot more funding available, as what Ken was referring to earlier. Recent or projects that have had funding with the town is the most recent, Briley Avenue, $3.5 million this year. And then we also worked with Mike about 2022, Mike, on Whole Avenue. That project had 1.5 million. The residents didn't have to pay for anything on that project. And that was fully funded with FDEP Springs, St. John's, and then also CDBG funds. And with that being said, thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anybody, questions, anybody? Quick? Just a couple of things. I read your report. I threw it. And I think Mike can answer this with confidence. Any new commercial development, Mike, they have to go on septic, right? There's no, or sewer, not septic. Yeah.
Sewer.
Oh, it's a given is what we're doing. So,
And we have the ordinance set up. Matter.
okay. And this is all a state requirement, what we're doing here, correct? Is what we were discussing. And again, you talked about penalties on that, and this is a process we're going through in your report to do that. One of the things you outlined in your report was the ordinance that was done back. Town has implemented an ordinance that if sanitary sewer is available, then the property owner needs to connect to the centralized sewer within 1 year of completion of the sanitary sewer. So with this new extension of the sanitary lines going down in the next phase, those residents at some point in time within that year period would have to connect. Is that correct?
So right now, if, let's say the sewer line was installed and made active today.
Yeah.
So the resident is notified of the active sewer line, and then they have 1 year to either connect or pay the base fee, the actual base fee, whatever. I think it's like right now, a month. But we're looking at changing that ordinance to where, it'll compel them to go ahead and connect.
Okay, and then that's when you would try to go after funds to help with those connection fees to.
As a matter of fact, in this next batch of funding from Tallahassee, the 2 million, in our work plan, we've put in a placeholder of 200,000 to divert to impact fees and the actual physical connection of the house.
Yeah.
To be divided up.
Yeah, because what was the number you came up with? You said per house to connect. Did you come up with a number?
Roughly 62,000 is what we estimated. That does not include.
Right. Okay. And that's not, I mean, obviously that's multiple, however many units you can put on there, right? I guess it's a $62,000 number. It's not per house, is it?
Based on the estimate.
Yeah. Crazy.
Because, they're having to construct the gravity sewer lines and.
Oh, you're talking about anything in the right of way and then running to the house. I guess I guess I'm asking about the lateral that runs off of the main line to the house would be. Yeah, that connection.
It
Probably
it fluctuates on the size of the lot.
10% of that, maybe. $6,200 probably, or something like that,
Well, I recently did mine on Whole Avenue, Shane. Remember, Mike?
Mhm.
And that lot on Whole Avenue and Walker came out to be $5,500.
Yeah,
So you have to get rid of your septic tank. That has to go away. There's a fee for that. I think it was like $2,200 or $2,500. And then the remaining was the connection. That was a quarter lot.
like 10% of that cost then is roughly.
When we first started this, way back when, that was one of the big burning factors was, most of the folks in town aren't going to be able to pay this. That's why we went, to the wall trying to get the funding so we could help the folks out in town. And back then, we were saying that the estimates were going to be anywhere between $6,000 and $9,000 per house, depending on your stuff. So it's hitting pretty well. Right? And that included taking out your old septic.
Yeah.
So it's about where we thought.
Well, and I had the conversation with Mike yesterday about, there will be people that their septic tank systems have to be replaced. And if the cost is less to connect to sewer than the replacement costs, then it would be advantageous, obviously, for, once those lines are run for them instead of, so they would have that cost anyway, if they had to upgrade their septic tank system, but if instead they could connect to the sewer, if that cost is comparable. And Mike, actually, when we talked yesterday, we talked about it being less to connect with the lines than replacing because of the requirements for the new septic tank system. So we're,
While we wait to get funds to help those people, because there's a lot of people who can't afford the
Mhm.
$9,000. And you mentioned there's 1 year, then after the year, if they can't if they can't do it themselves or fund it, then it's $19 a month uh, payment. How long does that last? So if I'm talking to Mrs. Smith and she says, I'll pay $19 for the next 40 years, I'm fine.
Well, it's dependent on several things. They have to demonstrate that their septic system actually works. It's one thing to have someone say it works, if they would have to, demonstrate that. And, that's the current ordinance. I can't predict what future ordinances will say, but it sounds like we need to tighten it up.
So to add to what Mike Parker said, I'm sorry, Mike Satterfield said, Mike Parker came to this commission 12, 13 years ago and told us that this, what we're dealing right now, is coming. So that's why we're here right now. Mike Parker told us that the state is going to eventually make this a rule or a policy, and we need to start coming up with a plan in order to convert the entire town from septic to sewer. So this all came from Mike Parker years and years ago. That's when we came up with the proposals of trying to go to the state to get those dollars. 12 plus years later, we got $4 million. And now we are seeing that what Mike Parker saw, what he predicted years ago, is coming to fruition right now. To include, that's why we were pushing, let's get a grant writer to also bring in dollars from different sources. That's why we try to do all we can to ensure that what Mr. Satterfield just mentioned, that was something that the entire commission was worried about. How can we get this done so we can, one, protect the environment, protect the Lake Apopka, protect all our natural resources, and at the same time, don't have a burden on our citizens. So yes, this may seem like it took a long time. Mike Parker predicted this a long time ago. We've been working on this. Now we're getting to the place where we're going to have someone who's going to be going after those dollars. Just back in December, you remember I mentioned that our federal partner is not a person who believes in appropriation. So I spoke to Congressman Frost to say, hey, what can we do? Shared it with Elise, and she told me that's when Mike Parker is going to be transitioning to a new position. Now, granted, Congressman Frost doesn't cover our area. He can't put it on his list, but he cannot make it a priority. But this communication we're dealing with right now tonight, as far as how it is really environmental, we can give this to that congressman and say, hey, please, can you help us? But I really want to hone in on the part that this is something that we've been planting seeds for 12, 13 years. And really, Mike Parker already predicted that this was going to be a situation, along with making sure that we come up with a plan that any new development, like the mayor mentioned, is have to go on sewer, and we're not going to have any burdens to our citizens. So this has already been baked in. So what you're hearing tonight, this conversation really started 12, 13 years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
I just want to, just to make the point, yeah, Mike, if this ordinance is in place that we currently have that says that a resident has to connect within a year or pay $19, and at some point, this is coming to reality, right? You're going to start doing this.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully within a year, maybe, you might be able to have residents that are existing connecting on this system.
Yeah, so I can't quote the ordinance, verbatim right
Right.
now, but it does say that the sewer line has to be adjacent to their property, either in a right of way or an easement. So,
The only reason I say that is I think that if you got to start getting the word out now that this is coming, this is going to happen. It could come in front, I know you have the layout, and you have the map. We've looked at it together, but those people need to kind of prepare. I mean, $6,000 is not a small chunk of change. to some people. And we're talking, I mean, your estimates here, 55,500,000 to take the whole town off of septic onto sewer. That's a big number, and that's years. 16.2 is what you got right here to eliminate just 4,701. That brings us to about 2030 on your report on where we should be. And if we're trying to hit that 2038 of 9,000, yeah, that's a lot. All I'm saying is we need to either look at that ordinance again and find out if we're okay with saying, okay, hey, you got to connect within a year, or is there other ways to kind of work that where we've got grant opportunities coming in, we got money coming in that we can help you do that. Everybody has to do a connection fee, right? So when you pay your impact fees, you're going to have to do a connection fee. So, we just have to work those out. Again, it's a benefit, I think, to the resident. It's a benefit to our town. It's a benefit to the environment. We just have to make sure that, we're not overburdening the resident financially. That's my point.
Well, and just to piggyback on that, agreed. I think if we know this is coming soon with like the Briley extension and stuff like that with the grant money that we have, we do need to notify those residents. I think that, the grant money for the residents, maybe we have to set up some kind of like financial need assessment or something, because again, if you have a septic tank sewer system, you have to maintain that system. And as I spoke with Mike about, if the cost is going to be less to connect to sewer and the connection opportunity is there, there will be some residents that can pay for it. So I think that, assuming that the town's going to be able to get funding to cover everybody, I don't know that that's a fair assumption. So like Shane said, making sure that residents are prepared, but also having them understand that, it's ultimately could be a cost savings for them, because the new septic tank system, from what we talked about, is more expensive than connecting to sewer. So we're actually reducing their output of costs. Then we're not really increasing their costs. We're giving them an out of something that's a better system for less money. So I think that's kind of a way we can message it too, is that once we have those lines, is that that's going to be available. And if they're on the verge of needing a new system, that, this would be their other option and could be a cost savings to them,
All right. Nice job on the report. I got a problem when I like reading reports like that. I don't know why I like reading engineering, but I do.
Same thing when you census the.
Yeah, same thing, Mike. You need a.
Well, it's a little bit different, I think. Let's see, what did I have on here? Let's see here. Staff is recommending that the Oakland Town Commission adopt by consensus the OSTDS remediation plan as required by state statute.
Okay. Census, everybody? We're all good, Mike. Thank you. Thank you guys for thank you, Ken.
By the way, Mike Parker, this is your last official act in that official job, or are we correct?
No. I think so, yeah. I remember a couple of years ago, I said it was my last budget workshop or whatever. That's, that went out the window, but
That point.
yeah, got to be careful. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to do it. So there's no doubt about it. So.
Kid decide we appreciate everything you have done in the position. I'm sure John Al's going to do a great job, but for what you've done over the last
13 and a half years.
You got a hard act to follow, John Al. So thank you, Mike.
I'll still be around.
All right. Thank you, guys. If you guys want to head out, you're more than welcome to. Okay, moving on. We'll move on to public forum. And public forum is your opportunity to speak about anything that did not appear on tonight's agenda tonight. And we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. So we have a taker in the back. You must come up and say your name and address. 3 minutes. Start the clock.
I already started the clock.
Louis Smith, 316 North Tubb Street. 2 issues for me. The woods are down now on the Briley property. Briley, I rode my mountain bike down there. There's a pond that I never knew was there with a canal that goes out to Lake Apopka. And when you had the development meetings about that property, I thought of having an access to the lake for canoes and kayaks. There it is. Let's do it. Number two, I've been told by residents of John's Landing that the vape store that was in the old 7-Eleven and there's a kiosk that sells tacos is run by gypsies, and they're not even letting people go sit down or get food or even go in the vape store. Something's not right going on there. Just want to let you know. That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll check that out. Right, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please. 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Noreen Dworkin. I'm the editor-in-chief of Vox Populi. I'm here to just make a brief announcement. Today, we were able to come to an agreement with the two candidates who are running for seat 4 in the March 10th election, Commissioner Joseph McMullen and candidate Ann Fulton. Vox Populi will be hosting a virtual candidates forum on February 25th at 7 p.m. It will be moderated by Steve Mort, formerly of WUCF's Newsnight. So this will be done in conjunction with the News Collaborative of Central Florida. So again, this will be a virtual candidates forum, and it will be done over Zoom, February 27th at 7 p.m. So I will have more information as we start to get the event together on Zoom with the link. People are encouraged to submit questions to be presented to the candidates. You can send the questions to Noreen, Norine, at wintergardenvox.com. And Steve Morton and I will go through the questions, make sure there are no duplicates, and we will put together the forum. So we hope people will attend. The forum will be recorded. If you don't watch it live, you will be able to watch it later. So very much.
Thank you.
And thanks again.
Okay, anyone else? Any other takers? No? Okay, so we'll close the public forum and bring it back to our town manager, Elise.
Just a couple quick things. I'll be out of the office January 29th through February 6th. I'm already regretting my decision, but Chief Eason will be acting town manager. In case you need anything. Heritage Day will continue to take place on Saturday, January 31st from 10 to 2. It is going to be cold, but please come out and bundle up. We'll still have it. We're not planning on canceling. The Black History Tribute Artist Reception will be Thursday, February 19th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And that exhibit will be on display starting Saturday, January 31st through March 27th. So there's a lot of great art out there. Come and take a look. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
We are all prepared and looking forward to Heritage Day. Nothing else to report. Everything is going smooth.
Great. All right. Jonelle?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity, for filling in for Mike. I know Mike has did a great job, like I told Elise, but I know Mike has built the foundation. I'm here to build the house. Okay, so with Public Works, I'm starting my budget early and preparing for future projects and equipment. And I'm actually looking forward to my first Heritage Day here. So I'm excited about that. And the family will be here.
Bring jackets and gloves and everything. Yeah. Thank you, John. Mike, you have anything new or you're good? Okay. Kathy?
Yes. The deadline to register for the upcoming election on March 10th is coming up on Monday, February 9th. You please contact the Supervisor of Elections office if you're not registered and you want to vote.
And that's a registered voter to register to vote, right?
Register to vote, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Commissioner McMullen. Mr. Ramos?
Yes. Speaking of asking, after several years of going to the Metro Plan Orlando, we finally have a commitment or the rep for the FDOT and Turnpike to have multiple signs on the Turnpike going north and south into our exit in Oakland. I've been talking to them for years about the exit coming into Highway 50 from the Turnpike is, says, welcome to Winter Garden and welcome to Claremont, even though the exit is 100% Oakland. So we just got the email this week that it's been approved and they're going to put multiple signs throughout the Turnpike to say, welcome to Oakland. So we have our identity for any tourists or passerbys. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. You. Mayor Keller?
I'd kind of like people to not know where we are, but sorry, that's just me. I just, as a resident of the town and as a recent commissioner, I want to thank Mike Parker for always answering my questions and being available when, like I said, before I was on the commission, we have a lot of things going on in my neighborhood, and he's been great with answering my questions and helping out some of our folks that are on our committee with our developer and builder of our neighborhood. So I know he's not going anywhere, Mike. So we're glad that you're transitioning into this new role, and we appreciate everything you've done. And Donnell, we are super excited for you to take the reins. I know you're going to do a great job. And, you know, we just wish you both well in your new roles, and thank you so much for your commitment to our town. I am going to be bundled up and looking forward to Heritage Day. It's my first Heritage Day as a commissioner because I was appointed almost a year ago tomorrow, I believe. So I just want to thank everyone for their support this last year, and I'm looking forward to Heritage Day.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I plan on signing up for the ethics training February 18th. Is that right, Commissioner Mom?
Yeah.
18th. So if anyone else, just a reminder, wants to do it, it is.
I kind of need.
It is a whole lot more interesting than doing the online thing that we do every year. That it's just, we could probably give ourselves a point, but I will be going to that one. So.
Okay.
Anybody else wants to? I'll be there.
For me, just again, it's gonna be cold. Just bundle up, and again, Heritage Day is gonna happen, and you know, when it gets cold like that, some people use their space heaters, so just be careful with that. You hear that all the time in the news, and you know, just read up on how to protect your pipes. If you have any exposed pipes, especially PVC pipes that come up out of the ground and go into your house, put some insulation around them. So if not, you'll have a big problem when you wake up the next morning. With that,
Real quick, sorry.
Ooh.
Kelly did post some information online on our website and Facebook today about if you're not used to the cold, like things to do around your home to make sure your pipes don't freeze. So take a look at that.
yeah, and let's hope the weathermen are way off like they normally are. So let's hope that's the case. So,
Right,
Commissioner,
if all hearts and minds are satisfied, it is still 8:13 p.m. Have a great night.